You know, when you learn the secrets to hitting your irons flush, it becomes really easy. You look forward to hitting that mid-iron out of the fairway because you know you're going to hit a good one, and most of your playing partners are going to struggle hitting those shots. Now, I've put together 3 of my all-time best videos that are going to share with you some of those real secrets to hitting crisp irons. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, now in this video, I got to be honest, I feel like I'm giving you the keys to the castle, so to speak. I feel like I should call your playing partners and warn them that after you do this drill this week, they better watch out. They better not bet you very much money because you're going to put a beat down on them. This drill is that good. Now, don't do what I did. When I first heard about this rubber band, flexi band drill, I didn't try it out for over a year. Actually, I have to give credit where credit's due. Fellow instructor, top speed golf instructor Chris Hunsucker first showed this to me. I didn't have a stretchy band and I put it off, and man, I regret doing that. This is one of the best drills to get you synced up in your golf swing, to get you feeling like your body and your arms work together, to feel like you can really compress a golf ball, and to get a whole lot more consistent. Let's go and get started. All right, so let's talk about what it means to be connected in the golf swing. Now, in the backswing, we don't really want to be connected. We want our arms to go ahead and come up nice and high. That allows us to create a lot of swing speed. That allows us to really wind up, that way we can get a lot of swing speed in the golf swing. But when we're connected is through contact. And what you really want to feel, and what you see with all the great players, is that as you come through contact, your left armpit or your left bicep and your left pec are really pinched in tight together. And what that's going to do for you is a couple things. If my body stops and I throw my arms, I get the chicken wing. My left arm flies off my body, and you kind of hit it like dirt, to be honest with you. You're not going to hit it nearly as good as your real ability could be. So when I stay connected, now as my body opens, my hands get in front of this golf ball and I'm much more consistent. I get the forward shaft lean like the pros have. I get that left wrist nice and bowed like the pros do. I get that extension through the shot with this left arm nice and straight that we all dream about getting, just like the pros do. And this drill is going to be fantastic to make that happen. Now, what we're going to do here to make this drill work is you just put this band, and it doesn't matter what thickness, what strength of this is, we're going to have a little bit of tension in here. Even if you have one of those circular bands, that's completely fine. It doesn't matter which one you have, just something that's stretchy that you can put under your armpit, which I'll show in a minute. I'm going to wrap it around the toe of the club, and then I'm going to come around the face 3 or 4 or 5 times really tight. And I want to do that way I make sure that this thing doesn't fly off, and I have to reset it every 2 or 3 swings. It's kind of a pain in the butt. But once I get that around there tight like that, it's going to be around the club head. Now from there, I'm going to go ahead and set this club down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull a little bit of tension with this. I want to have a little bit of stretchiness there. And then I want to go ahead and put the other side under my left armpit. Now, what I have to do with this drill, even though it looks a little bit goofy, is now I have to have that connection. As soon as my arm flies away from my body and I chicken wing, that pops out and you get immediate feedback from that. Now, when you're doing this, I want to get in there nice and tight to start. I'm only going to be able to go back to about right here. And then I'm going to come through, and I'm only going to be able to come through to about right there, maybe a little bit farther than that. That's when I'm connected in the golf swing. And you'll feel like your body opens up and the club just tracks right along with it. You'll also notice when you do this, I'm not going to flip at all. As soon as I flip the club, my arm loosens up and that band flies out. I'm not going to do a lot of the things that I don't want to do in the golf swing when I do this drill. You'll also notice that if I can keep that club's shaft in front of this stretchy band, that's going to make sure that I have forward shaft lean as I'm doing this. So I can even hit a couple golf balls if I get it wrapped around there fairly tight. Use a middle iron, 6 iron, 7 iron, 8 iron, and then just go halfway back and halfway through. Just like that, really compressed. You're going to get some really nice feels when you're doing that. So that's the drill. Let me give you a couple keys that you want to focus in on as you're doing that drill. And then finally, a way to check it to make sure that you're getting the compression and the consistency that you really need. When I'm going back, what I don't want to do is I don't want to do this. And I don't want to have my shoulders turning very flat. I want to feel like my left shoulder goes down, keeps a little pinch between my left arm and my pec, and I want to feel like my right shoulder goes up. That allows me to get that turn of the shoulders very early. That is incredibly important for swing speed. If I don't get that turn and I pick up with my arms, again, my arms are flying off my chest and I'm gonna lose that stretchiness of the band. I'm gonna lose that tightness in there. So I'm gonna feel like I get a huge shoulder turn just when my club is parallel to the ground. Now I've preached that for years, but I've never had a drill as good as this that allows you to feel that in your swing. Now from there, the next piece is the legs and the body. This is the part that everybody gets wrong. Most players do this. We stand up, the hips go toward the golf ball, my knees straighten, and we throw, or we kind of flip our arms at it. That gets a chicken wing as our club goes past our body. What we want to feel like is, as we have pressure in my left armpit, now I'm letting my legs bend and I'm rotating my body through the shot. That's going to allow me to keep everything moving forward, to keep my arms nice and long, and you can just hear that sound. I'm visualizing, even when I'm doing that, that's staying really tight and connected, and it's really, really solid. Now, the last piece of this is the part that is a make or break deal. There's actually two sides to this. Now, if I'm coming outside, if I let my club come out here and I'm coming across the golf ball, it's going to be a weak and glancing blow. I'm never going to be able to get the compression that you deserve to have on the golf ball coming across it like that. I want to feel like, as I take this little backswing, as I start down, this is pinched across my chest. Everything is tight as my body opens, but look at the golf club. It's coming from the inside. That's the real key here. See, when the club comes from the inside, from here, I can keep this tight. I can rotate on through, and what ends up happening is that club whips on through. Notice how, as I just rotate my body, when this club's from the inside, it slings out toward the golf ball, and it's a nice inside path. That's going to be that great draw that everybody wants to get. But what happens when my club is outside? As I open up my body, now I'm just glancing, slicing across it. So the cool thing is, if you've been trying to get your club from the inside for a long time, but you stand up and flip, now you finally have the feel of how to stay connected and keep everything coming through there. So I want you to feel, and it's very, very important with this, I want you to feel like your club is very much in here, and now when you rotate through, that squares it up. See, I can get as far back here as I want. I could even get the club back here, and I'm not gonna be stuck as long as I rotate my body. That's what you see in the tour players doing, because that rotation of the body kicks the club back out in front, and it keeps you from getting stuck. So I'm gonna feel like on this one, I get the club so far to the inside, and as I keep this tight and I rotate, it's gonna be a nice solid compression, and you're gonna see from the flight of the golf ball, it's nice and straight also. So that felt like to me that I was here, but I bet it didn't look like that on camera, because as I rotate my body, that kicks it back out in front. All right, now if you want to be a fantastic iron player, there's really just three things you need to do. Number one, I need to get my weight shifting to my left so that I can hit the ground at the same time every single time, hit the ball first, and then make my divot in front of what we'll do later here is in front of this line. So the first key is I got to get my weight to the left. You can see that if I'm falling back to the right, like many players do, I'm wanting to ground out here. My right shoulder's getting lower to the ground. I'm going to hit behind this line. There's really no way for me to get my hands and arms up in front of that line. That's piece number one. Number two, I have to get my hands leading the way. I have to get my hands in front of the club head and in front of this line at contact by a good 4 or 5 inches. That way my divot is always in front of that line. I'm taking loft off the club like the tour pros. I'm really compressing that ball. I'm getting that nice, tight, solid draw. And then number three, I need to make sure I come from the inside. It doesn't matter if I hit this ground every single time I hit the ball first. If I'm kind of chopping down steep, I'm coming across the ball and I get that weak slice or that weak shot that just kind of floats up the face and goes really high. If you want to learn how to do that, I have an absolutely simple drill, really easy. You follow the steps on this, it's going to be very easy to go ahead and do all those things that I mentioned. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so let's jump right into the drill. The first piece is I got to get my weight to the left. And the easiest way that I've found to feel this is as you go to the top, make sure that your weight shifts to the right very early, or as you make your backswing. As soon as I'm starting my backswing, I even like to preset maybe 60% of my weight on my right side at address. That way I get my weight to the right early. I want my weight almost fully loaded up on my right side by the time my club gets to parallel with the ground. From there, I'm going to feel like I get my weight to my left, I'm pushing my left foot into the ground, then I swing down. What almost every single player does is they wait way too late in their backswing to get their weight going to the right. And what ends up happening is now everything is late when I'm shifting down. I keep my weight on my right and I end up falling back and hitting behind the line like we talked about. The easiest way to do, just like I said, start with your weight on your right, have my weight feeling like it's on the inside of my right foot. So from my toe all the way to my ankle, I want to feel some pressure there when the club is here. Then I'm going to shift left and swing down. That shift to the left has to happen before I swing down. Just like if I was going to throw a pitch, I'm going to step forward, I'm going to shift my weight, open my body, then I throw the ball. I don't throw the ball, then shift to the left. That's an easy way to do it. So a great little drill here is to feel like, what I like to do, if I'm putting this line on the ground, I'll put a tee, or even, let's grab a golf ball to make it more severe here. I'm going to put a golf ball under my left ankle and have, or under my left foot, kind of in the middle of my foot, right around there, under my sole, and then I'm going to feel like I push that ball into the ground. So I transfer right early, I push that ball or start to drive that ball into the ground, then I swing down. Now the second piece is the forward shaft lean. How do I get those hands in front? This is a big one. And when I get players to do this little drill I'm going to teach you, they start looking like a tour pro very quickly. This is a natural motion. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my club and turn it sideways, and I'm going to imagine it's a hammer or an axe, and I'm going to drive this golf ball into the ground. Now when I do that, because there's so much weight in front of the shaft now, when I feel like I get my hands just a little bit ahead, you'll see I have tons of shaft lean. So if you don't believe me, grab a club and do this, and notice how just easy it feels to get your hands way in front when you're doing this. Another great visual that makes this even easier is you take a little tee and you put it in the ground at an angle. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to feel like with this club, or now my new sledgehammer, I'm going to imagine this is a railroad spike or a giant nail. I'm going to have my toe of my club feel like I'm going to drive that into the ground. So you'll see there, depending on the shape of your club, you may or may not be able to actually do that, but you can see I just drove that right into the ground, that tee into there. It's really not that hard to do once you get the feel of that axe instead of a golf club. Now finally, the third piece. None of this does you any good. It doesn't matter if I go ahead and shift my weight and I make that divot time after time after time right in front of that line. I hit the ball perfectly clean every single time if I'm chopping down and coming across this golf ball. Lots of times I'll see players do this. They stand up, they're casting it, losing lag, and they're kind of flipping and chopping it. The ball just rolls up the face and it doesn't do any good. All that's coming from when I start my downswing, that right arm pushing this club out and getting steep. I want to make sure that I come from the inside, I get from the slot, then I come down. A great way to visualize that is that same thing. We're going to put that tee in the ground again, but this time, instead of it being straight toward my target, actually I'll put it in relationship to this alignment stick, instead of it being straight toward my target, I'm going to angle that tee, whereas if I was playing baseball, I would feel like that tee's kind of going out toward right field. Now I'm going to do that same drill again. I'm going to set up as though that was my golf ball, and instead of hitting it straight down this alignment stick, for those of you who are coming a little steep and over the top, I'm going to feel like I'm going more toward right field. I'm still getting my weight left, I'm still opening my body, but my club's coming from the inside, and I'm going to drive that tee that way instead of that way. So that'll get you coming from the inside. Now you'll see, as I'm doing this, it's very easy for me to hit 4 or 5 or 6 shots in a row in front of this line. It's not that difficult at all. And once you do these drills, the same thing's going to happen for you. This makes it so much more fun when hitting your irons. Now I've probably taught maybe 10,000 different students over my entire teaching career, and there's one thing that I would say over 99%, probably 1 out of a couple thousand people get right. And everybody else hasn't really been taught or learned to do this properly, and that's to get the proper wrist angles that the pros are doing. And if you do this, if you use these wrists properly, I can get tons of forward shaft lean. I can get my hands leaning in front of this golf ball at contact. That's going to allow me to hit it so daggone solid. If you're struggling to hit the ball solid, then you need to learn this progression. I'm also going to help you to really feel like you get that nice tight draw when we learn these wrist angles. So let's jump right into it. Man, this is going to be a fun one. Now, most of the time when I see players square up the club, what's happening is they're squaring up the club by pushing the hands forwards and backwards. So if you imagine I put my hands out here in front of me, I'm thinking about squaring the club up by doing this, and I'm thinking about squaring the club up by rotating this way. But I'm not thinking about it by doing this, which is a totally different move. I'm bowing my wrist, my left wrist, I'm cupping my right wrist, and I'm releasing like that. Now Hogan talked about it in his book. This is one of the things that he really had right. And I think it's good to know how to move these wrists, is what I'm going to teach first. But then I'm going to talk about the reason that maybe if you have tried this before, that it hasn't worked, and the secret to really getting it to work once and for all. So first, let's talk about what this wrist needs to do. I'm going to start with my left hand here. And what I want to do is I want to go ahead and come halfway down. I'm going to rotate my logo of my club down to the ground. And you're going to see that's going to put my club face completely closed. Now from there, I want to imagine that instead of letting the wrist go forward like this, and now you can see my left wrist is cupped, I'm going to give you the exaggeration of how this should feel. I'm going to bow that wrist, the logo is going to be the ground, and then from there, I'm going to feel like the club stays parallel to the ground and does this. Almost like if I took the logo of my glove, we're out here early in the morning, there's a lot of dew on the ground, like I was going to take my logo and just brush all the dew off the ground as I release my hand. So you see my hand is turning this way. I'm going ahead and getting that doorknob turning to the left, but at the same time I'm bowed. So it's like this. That's the motion of the left wrist. So I'm coming all the way on through. Now that would be the biggest smother hook you've ever hit in your life, which is exactly what we want to do. But before we jump into that, let's actually add the right hand on there. Again, I'm going to take that right hand, I'm going to bow those knuckles back or cup those knuckles back, palm is out. I'm going to imagine that now my right hand, again the same thing, I'm turning that club head down, my palm of my hand is toward the ground. If it was on the ground, on that dew again, I would be brushing the dew. So I'm rotating my hand this way, but I'm keeping my palm down the entire time. That's really the secret to getting these pro impact alignments. That's the secret to getting these hands so far in front, is that sensation that I just gave you there. But it's really not going to work unless you do this next part. And what it is your brain is so tied into trying to get that ball to fly the way that you want it to fly, your body just will not let you, your mind will not let you do what we just talked about with those wrist angles. So we got to break that by kind of shocking the system here. And the way that I want to do this is I'm going to line up straight and I'm going to hit some low smother hooks. Now I have a pond to the left of me today. If I was really doing this correctly, I would hit about 30 balls straight into that pond. So you want to get on the driving range when you're doing this. You want to make sure that when you're really doing this drill, you have a little bit more space, more than we do here today. But I'm going to do it slowly to show you exactly what I should feel. So again, I'm going to go down to here. I'm turning those hands down. Logo of the glove down, palm of the right hand down. This club face is so closed. Now I'm not going to flip it and square the club face like this. I'm going to pet the dew off the ground, and I'm going to have that club face really, really closed. So that's going to look something like this when I hit that shot. It's just a low hook to the left. Now if you look at my hands, I'm going to go ahead and turn this way so we can see them easier. If you look at my hands when I finished, logo of the glove down, palm of my right hand down, club face is completely closed. This would be the wrong way. This would be more like where your real swing is, where my hand is kind of shaking hands. We've all heard that. We want to exaggerate it to where now I would have my palm of my hand down and the logo of my glove down. So I'm going to hit about 20 or 30 shots doing that same thing. I'm not going to hit that here today, but I want you to hit about 20 or 30 shots. Again, little half swings. I'm smothering it down to where that face is completely closed, and I'm just going ahead and letting that release, letting that turn on over like this. You can't overdo this. I promise you, you can't overdo this. Now, if you tend to be a little bit steep in the downswing, you tend to get a little bit here. Now, all of a sudden, when I'm releasing my hands like that, I don't really want to do that anymore. I'm not going to want to get steep. When I release my hands this exaggerated way, all of a sudden I'm going to want to come in more from the inside to try to get that ball going more toward the target, which is that shallowing out move that we all want to get. Now, even if I shallow it out properly, I'm still going to be hitting it slightly to the left. So the final piece to this, to straightening that out, is just relax on it a little bit. Feel like you make a little bit more of your normal swing. You're going to have the hands leaning in front, but instead of having that exaggerated smother hook, I'm going to feel like it's a little bit straighter. And once you relax on this drill a little bit, it's going to take your normal kind of steeper swing, a little bit of an early release, not as good a forward shaft lean here. And because you've exaggerated, you're gonna start getting it shallow, you're gonna start getting the hands in front without really having to think about it that much. So that exaggeration helps you to incorporate that into your full swing really, really quickly. Now, there's another piece to this. That's the pro wrist angles. That's that pro compression to finally get that ball just kind of clicking, smashing against the face. But if I don't have very much power with that, if I don't have very much swing speed, that's not going to make a ton of difference. Yeah, you're going to hit it solid. You're going to hit a lot of crisp golf shots all the way around the course, but you're not going to have the power that you deserve. The next piece of this is, now that we have this good impact alignments, those pro alignments, we have to learn to get some speed to this. And I'm going to do that by properly using my lower body to load up in my backswing. Now, a lot of players get this wrong. They never think about their lower body. They only think about loading their shoulders. And it's really the lower body that leads to a good, powerful backswing. I'm going to play a preview of one of my best, what I call the power turn video. It's one of my 5 fundamentals, the real fundamentals in the golf swing in my top speed golf system. I'm gonna play a preview of this power turn. It's gonna talk about a little bit about the lower body to make sure you load that properly and that you get the power you deserve. Now, once you add that to these pro wrist angles, you're gonna be playing some pretty daggone good golf. You're gonna love the way the ball sounds coming off the club. All you need to do is go ahead and click the card that pops up somewhere on your screen here. And if you don't see that, don't worry, go down to the description below and click the link there. You'll get instant access to this video that I'm about to play a preview of. Best of luck. I can't wait to see you in the power turn. Let's go and get started now. Most of the instruction out there today is killing you of your power. The things that they're telling you to do can make you hit it shorter, and worse than that, not even any more consistent. I'm gonna go over some of the real secrets to powerful, consistent golf in this video. Let's go and get started. So here's some of the keys into making that happen. If you wanna incorporate this in your swing, let me break it down exactly what you should do. Number one, let's focus on the belt buckle. This is another big misconception. I want to keep that belt buckle facing the ball so I can really stretch out my midsection and really get loaded up. I'm not a big fan of that. That's really going to kill your distance. In your backswing, I want to feel like that belt buckle rotates to the right and you really let your hips and legs be loose. Notice how my legs are moving here. I'm not trying to keep those rigid and tight, or I'm really just taking all the speed out of my swing. All right, so on that one, I really felt like I let my belt buckle rotate back. And a good key to this is feel like your knees are loose. Feel like when you make your backswing. Piece number two, let's go ahead and rotate our shoulders. When I let my lower body rotate, my upper body can rotate a lot better also. So if I let my hips move, my shoulders will move more. So here, once I've got my hips working well, I'm gonna add to that my shoulders making a big rotation. On average, on the PGA Tour, players are getting about 120 degrees of shoulder rotation. I don't see hardly anybody getting less than 90 degrees. So it starts with the hips, knees nice and loose, allow the belt buckle to rotate, and then from there, so those are 2 really big keys. But here's the truth. There's one thing, and if you don't do this correctly, nothing else is gonna work.